All right, so three, two, one. What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Down to Business podcast here with Tamar Turner. Look, I'm gonna have to get a little bit more creative with my intros. I actually got some feedback recently from a podcast pro. I'm gonna call him. His name was Alex. He actually reached out to me and really was just letting me know he listened to some of the episodes and he was trying to, just help me improve and move forward and things like that. So he said he loved the intros, but me personally, as I started to listen and go back, I want to switch things up a little bit. I want to move. So I guess Kelly can be considered a little bit special in this regard because she will get a bit of a different intro, but nonetheless, still the same intro. So we're going to debut things with Kelly, but nonetheless, very excited to be sitting down today. I have to say that when I read Kelly's bio, when I went through her website, when I once saw that the outreach where it really came from, I was already impressed just because Angel, Jamie, they never send me anybody who I would not have again and again and again and again on the podcast. But after I kind of just did my own due diligence, after I did some things on my end, I was just, I had to throw the hands up and I was just like, we have to get her on the podcast. Very happy that we were able to get something scheduled. I'm very excited for her to share everything that she has going on, everything that she's doing, and how she could be a resource to you just the same. But before we do that, before we get into all things that she does, Kelly, how you doing today? How's everything on your end?
I am fantastic. It's actually a little cooler out here in California, so I cannot complain.
Okay, so we're going East Coast to West Coast today. So I'm in Tampa.
Yes.
I will say, yes, Tampa, as of last week, we had one of our coolest days since May, they said. So maybe the tides are changing, maybe things are happening. So I'll take it just the same. But the most important part, why you're here today, everything for the people tapping in, people coming from your side, people coming from my side, and then we're going to have some newcomers who are joining along the way. So to get everybody on the same page, bring everybody up to speed, just do two things for me. One, just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then two, just tell us what brings you on the Down to Business podcast today.
Yeah. So, well, like you said, I live in California. I'm an executive at Goodly, which is a multi-billion-dollar financial technology company. I also am co-founder and co-owner of GoBundance Women, which is a mastermind community that really helps ambitious female business owners and leaders, with accountability, support, new connections, networking, etc. And then what I'm most passionate about, of course, is, I'm a mom to two kids that are now in college, but I love helping people with, supporting their business growth, with mindset. That's definitely the one thing that I'm known for, is helping people shift their mindset into an abundance mindset, and then overcoming both abundance blocks and self-sabotage. So that is definitely what I love talking about, Tamar. So
Do y'all see why she's on the podcast? Do y'all see why I was so excited to sit down with her just the same? Just in that intro alone, it really just lets me know where the passion lies, but also that you're not new to this, you're very true to this, and the results speak for themselves time and time again. So one, wishing the best luck to the kids in college. I definitely do remember and somewhat miss those days as people are kind of telling me now that I've turned 29. I'm on a different side of life and I'm third. People are calling me 30 already and calling me old and things like that. So I just want to take it back a little bit. So I'm jealous of them, my little brother included. But no, to really hear too, that the focus specifically highlights women. I love that just the same too, because it almost reminds me of a company that we brought back on the podcast, Julie Perkins and Wise Minds. And just more so taking, as you said, just recognizing that women are doing amazing things. Women are very resourceful. Women are very thoughtful. Women are hard workers through and through. And a lot of times, sometimes they just need that extra push, maybe just that motivation, sometimes just even that evaluation, just that consultation, just to be able to sit down and really just say, hey, this is what I have. Let's, plug and play a little bit. Let's put some pieces together. This is the overall, but let's more so make sure that moving forward, we're as concise as possible. So I love that emphasis on that. Now, what I will say and what I am kind of curious about is, why did you choose to go the path that you went? I understand that probably growing up, you realized early on that you just love to help people. You just love to kind of be able to be there, be a resource, be a light, be a blessing to someone. But why did you then choose to brand yourself and make a business out of it? Because I feel like that's a pretty big leap. It's one thing
yeah,
to love something. I would say that
yeah,
there are a lot of people who are passionate about certain things, love certain things, but they're
yeah.
not necessarily, branded or business owners about it. They
Yeah.
kind of just like to do it. So for you, why that path in particular?
Well, I'll be 100% honest with you. I was not always like this. I was definitely pretty self-absorbed growing up and didn't think a lot about how what I was doing impacted other people. And I think that's how most of us are raised, right? We live in a very, scarcity, competition driven economy where if you win, I lose, vice versa. And that was definitely how I was raised, was just to be the best because you wanted to be better than the next person. And so my awakening came after living that way for a significant period of time, and it served me well. I was a top 1% producer in the mortgage industry, so definitely lived a very blessed life when it comes to, financial and worldly success, but I was miserable inside. My awakening happened about 20 years ago. In 2004, it came through a myriad of different things, through my mom getting diagnosed with dementia. My sister started having some challenges with her mental well-being, and then my grandmother passed away. And then I had my daughter shortly there before. And I think just having all of those things hit me at once, I had what I kind of call as my awakening. The first book I ever read was Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And if you have never read that book, I highly recommend it. It is not an easy read by any means, but I realized, Tamar, I had never had a present moment in my entire life. I was always worried about what other people thought. I was always worried about pleasing, being perfect, being an achiever. And until then, I started, like I just had to look back and say, like, what was it all for? Like, nobody really cares what you're doing. And so I had to really start living for myself. And so over that period of time, what I would tell you is that, I didn't choose this, it chose me. And it's a calling that's deep in my heart, and I know it's something that God wants me to do because so many people are suffering. And there's suffering of many kinds, right? There's real suffering, which that's an important area to focus on, but what I focus on is self-suffering. It's the people that go through stress and imposter syndrome and, don't have the habits. They might have an idea of what they want their life to look like, but they don't know how to get themselves out of bed or moving towards that. And that really has been what I've focused on, is coming up with not only what strategies can I share from a leadership perspective, like what are some of those important things that you need to focus on, but then how do you also simultaneously do some of the deeper healing so that you don't have to work so hard in life. And so that's kind of how I got here. Again, it chose me, and there have been times where I'm like, "Oh, I'm just going to focus on this." And then nope, like God just kind of redirects me and says, "No, I need you to get out there and share more and do more."
And it's not the easy different things placed upon our life. We go through different experiences,
Yeah.
grief, condolences as well. And as you said, just that myriad of events, everything kind of happened and it felt like back to back. It felt like you really couldn't catch a break. You couldn't win for losing. But to ultimately really realize too that through all of this, there's going to be an outcome. Through all of this, I'm going to emerge, much stronger, with a more mental clarity, more of a peace of mind than I went into this. It may not necessarily always be on your timeline. It may not necessarily be exactly when you want it to. But if you do the diligence, if you do the work, if you answer the call, it will definitely be there for you. So, and a lot of times too, it takes us having to reflect on how we once were, how we once thought, how we once acted,
Yeah.
how we once treated people in a sense
Yes.
too. And it's another thing to be able to flip that a little bit, 180 it in the sense. I've talked to a host of people who have said that, as you said, that they look at what they're doing today and they look at the impact that they've had and how long they've been involved in doing what they're doing, and they would have called themselves crazy years ago if they ever would have
Yeah.
thought, or the way they were living, the way they were acting, everything of the
Yeah.
sort. So to really see, that's not the easiest thing to do, but I time and time again just have to commend yourself and all of those other
Yeah.
people who are really just doing the work, because it's amazing, but it's also needed because it helps other people who, like you said, are going through real life things, are having real life experiences, but don't necessarily know where to turn, or sometimes don't necessarily have that mental fortitude to get up out of bed, to give themselves that extra push, to get out, to get dressed, get some sun, get some air. Because sometimes that's all it takes. It takes that one step, that one, hey, I'm going to move today. I'm
Yeah.
going to do something different today. That
That's it.
1%, it could totally transform your life and everything. Okay. So now, correct me if I'm wrong as I walk through this a little bit. So I could imagine that as you started to move through things, as you started to have this self-reflection in a sense, and go through things on your end, that naturally you started to become the woman that you are today. You started to begin to help people, to impact people.
Mhm.
And it probably started with people that were close to you, around you, whether it be family, friends, people within your network, everything like that. Now, When it comes to the impact that you've had to date, when it comes to really then going beyond what you've done and helping others, helping strangers, helping people who you may not even know, helping people who may not even be located necessarily where you are, how did that work? What was really the growth of this to get to where it is today?
Yeah, well, I would tell you that I was already speaking publicly before I went through this awakening. So it was an easy transition for me. I already had a following within the mortgage and real estate world. And so I already was in that place of influence. So it was easy for me to start bringing in the conversations that were a little deeper. Instead of just working on their business plan, we were working on their life plan. Instead of just working on how to create more financial success, we started working on how to create more peace and joy in your life simultaneously. And so that definitely happened over a period of time. And then as I made this transition and joined Good Leap in 2011, one of the big roles that I have within the organization is to oversee our leadership. And so we have, let's just call it 100 plus executives that I get to support, and then all of our employees as well. And so in doing that, the calling for me to do the Go Abundance Women thing, which has really been a big piece of my own growth, was recognizing that I was giving so much. Like I was constantly in a place of giving, right? I would learn, I would grow, I would give. And that was kind of the recipe. And so when I went to an event, let's call it a Tony Robbins event or a Brendan Burchard event or whatever it might be, I might get filled up, but then I went home and I just kept giving. And so I realized that one of the greatest challenges that I was facing was loneliness, is I was isolated on the personal growth journey. Like I wasn't surrounded with like-minded people that also wanted to talk about next level things and how we were going to change the world and whatnot, especially females that were in that zone. And so, I definitely had a pity party for a couple years and then reminded myself that I was the creator of my own reality. And so I went out and forged a partnership with the men's group. Go Abundance Men has been around for years. And we started a women's division. And now I have people all over the world that I can connect with on a daily basis and be able to, share and receive. That was one of the things that I was not really good at before, was like receiving support, receiving wisdom, receiving, just that exchange. I think so many of us minimize abundance because all we do is give. And then we don't keep that flow going. And so that's kind of been the trajectory. And I've continued to speak all along. And I love, I try to keep it to weekends because I do have a lot that's going on during the week, but I still, just try to share as much as I can with whoever I can. And that might be a person that I meet at an event. I just met somebody at an event. I was with John Maxwell in Orlando last week and met people that I was like, hey, like here's some of the things that I've done. And I'm just always in that place of wanting to support other people, kind of taking their lives to the next level.
Did not know John Maxwell was an hour away from me last weekend, so I need to do some better research on
Oh
my.
my goodness. If you have not plugged in to John Maxwell's organization, let me tell you, I could try to spend a lot of time focusing on leadership, but I asked myself like, why? He's already written 90 books. He's got everything. I'll just use his stuff in that realm and then talk about the other things that I enjoy talking about. So
Not to hear.
he'll be back in March tomorrow.
Okay, I'm
Yep.
marking. I'm marking it now. I'm
Yep.
not.
I can share that information with you later.
I appreciate that most definitely. But to hear that you you took something that to some may have been an outlier, the women's side of things, to forge that, to form that, to look at the foundation, to build that and then grow that. That's something monumental just the same. And I'm sure that you did something that a lot of women needed and may not
Yeah.
necessarily have taken the steps for
I
themselves or
didn't even know it.
felt
Most
like
of us don't
you know
know it.
and
Yeah.
I'm glad that you said that too, because something that I'm curious about as you've worked with so many different women, a plethora of different industries across the world, everything of the sort like that. Have you found there really to be commonalities amongst what they're going through, amongst what they're, because something that I love to inform my business owners, my entrepreneurs, my creators, people tapping in is that look, the people are experiencing the same problem as you. Just because you don't have a
Mhm.
podcast, or just because you may not be in the retail space or healthcare space, or just because you may not be in a specific type of industry does not mean that there are not people who can resonate with you and relate with you and deal with the same different things. So
Yes.
have you found there to be just this common problems that these women are dealing with when it comes to business ownership, entrepreneurship, or really just,
Yeah.
growing what they're trying to do?
I feel like I like plated you up that question, because if you would have said, "What's the best question that you could have asked me today, Tamara?" That's exactly it. So what I'm really passionate about is really elevating world positivity. And what that means is that, we need thought leaders that are thinking more about people and the planet simultaneously. And this is not a political conversation. This is a what's good for everyone. And the reason why women need to rise is that having a whole brain approach to solving world problems is needed. We think different than you. I don't want to be you. I'm not a man. You're not a woman. We think differently. I might think a lot wider. I might be able to see things just in a different light than what you do. And we both bring a lot to the table. But when you look at some of our challenges, is that if we have the same types of people sitting around the table, we're going to solve the problems with the same set of ways that we always have. And I don't believe the world's going to be a better place until we elevate this. And so, what I know to be true is there's a reason why women have not gotten to the same levels of equality in the workspace, right? We know that C-suite's closer to 10%, leadership's lower, and yet we make up 50%. I believe a lot of it is that women aren't applying for those roles. We're not pushing ourselves because we are reporting higher instances of stress, higher instances of imposter syndrome, and higher challenges with work-life balance. We care differently than men do. Like, as much as I could say, like, I had to come to work and I'm an executive and I was a single mom. I was thinking about the dentist appointment. Did Cole turn his math in? Did this happen? Did that happen? I had to think about so many different things. And that can create some, I would just say challenges with thinking about, well, how do I get to the next level? I needed to ask for help. And that is one of the greatest challenges that we have as women, is that we try to take on too many things. We don't have that conversation with our partner to say, "Hey, we need equality at home." If we're both going to be doing this, like, it needs to be this way. We're such naturally born nurturers that we have a struggle asking for help. And that's part of why I'm so passionate about this Be World Positive movement, is that as women, we need to change things. Like, I look at people complain about the food industry, quit buying the food. It's the easiest way to change the food industry. Like, if we're complaining about whatever it is, like, we are so powerful that we don't give ourselves enough credit. Like, if we want more higher percentages in leadership roles, we need to be applying for them. We need to be asking for what we need to get to the next level, investing in our own growth. And so I won't be a victim of what the numbers are. Like, I'm just going to get louder about sharing with women what are some of the things that we can do in order to be able to balance some of these things out. We need to reduce stress. We need to, like, take imposter syndrome and, like, throw it out. That's a voice in your head that does not serve you. It is not who you are. It is just something that's minimizing you. And that's what I love helping women with. And I do a lot of that in Go Abundance Women. And then, the other piece is just this work-life balance thing. It's just a matter of being present. It's not quantity, it's quality. Like, we've lost presence. The iPhones, the TikToks, the Netflix, all of these things are destroying our ability to be present. And when we can really get a hold of that, when we can really get to this place of, like, you know what? I'm going to be present with my kids. I'm going to be present with my partner, my family, my friends, at my job, wherever I am. Like, we're just going to, we're going to make the world a better place when that happens. But this addiction to productivity and technology and other things is something that we've got to really focus on. You got me going there, Tamar. That's like one of my favorite questions ever.
Like, I'm glad you all you did was lead me into it. I just had to ask it.
Yeah.
So I thank you for the assist. But no, to one of the funny thing. I laugh about it now, but it's really just as simple as you said it was the food industry. You said that a lot of times we're making complaints and we're not happy with things, and we see all this stuff and we're reading, and TikTok is just going wild with don't do this or don't do that or don't buy this. And time again, we still do it. Something that I had to really come to a realization with myself was, hey, if I'm complaining about the diets, or if I feel like they're not out here, if I there was a time when McDonald's came out with the $6 or whatever they're offering right now.
Yeah.
And I literally quoted the tweet and I said, yeah, they're trying to take us out of here, y'all. But I told myself, granted, I stopped eating McDonald's years ago, but I told myself too, like, why should I, who am I to complain? Who am I to down talk this or retweet this or support this, but not I have to preach to the choir. I have to listen too. It's the same. I have
Yeah.
to take my own advice. I can't just. It's as simple as that. The minute I started not buying certain things, not eating certain things, paying attention to what I'm shopping with, being more intentional about my diet, ordering things that are useful for me, I stopped complaining about it. I stopped talking about it. I stopped worrying about it. So it's the same. But I say that to say that as easy as I
Yeah.
could do that with food, you can do that with so many different things. So
Everything.
I love that you made it just that simple. But I also
Yeah.
love you said, there are real problems out here. So to take it a step further now, how do you teach someone to do something that otherwise has not been ingrained in them? So for instance, you said that
Yeah.
one of the biggest things that, and I feel like you were even speaking to me in the regard of trying to pour from an empty cup. A lot of my friends tell me that. A lot of my friends always say that you are there for so many people, you support so many people. At what point do you realize, you were telling even me about yourself that you had a hard time, you were just so give, give, give. And it was
Yeah.
hard for you to really receive. Not that you didn't want to, not that people weren't there to be able to, but when you're so used to just putting out and pouring
Yeah.
in, it's hard when
Yeah.
it's reciprocated that way.
Yeah.
So how do you teach someone, specifically women, as you said, the nurturers,
Yeah.
the caretakers, those people who are always going to be over you, that motherly figure? How do you teach them to then be able to make sure that they're getting poured into just the same?
Absolutely. It is definitely challenging. So the first thing that I'd say is that our egos are really tricky. And so a lot of times when we're giving, it gives us a level of significance or authority over what we're giving to, right? And that can be a little tricky. So one of the greatest gifts that I believe that all of us have is vulnerability. And we have to be open to being vulnerable in order to receive. And we also have to recognize the power of proximity. If I'm in proximity to people who I don't value the way that they live their life, I don't value what they might have to give to me, then I'm going to be more closed off. So we need to be in that constant place of up leveling our proximity. I don't want people to say like you're doing too much. I want them to say, "How can I help you get to the next level?" And so you need to be thoughtful about who you surround yourself with. And so I'm going to give you just a quick recipe because the main question that you ask me is how do you get people to shift, to do something different? So for me, I always start always with have a vision for how you want to feel. We live in a very left brain world, which is all about doing. I believe we need to spend more time focused on how we want to feel. Like, how do you want to feel after you get off a podcast? Do you feel fired up? Do you feel excited? Or do you feel like, oh man, I got to go do this or do that? Like, really focus on how you want to feel. We only get one life. Like, we only get one. Why are we wasting time not feeling fantastic? For the person that goes and eats at McDonald's, I don't care what you say, you are not going to feel as good as if you cooked something at home that was 60% vegetables and protein, right? Like we don't live in a society that teaches food as medicine. We live in a society that treats disease that's created from food. And if you don't take responsibility for how you feel, you're never going to get to that next level. Now, I look at my mom's dementia as a gift in my life now because it made me start thinking about brain health. And when you think about brain health, we have the tiniest blood vessels and just the tiniest flow, right? You have any inflammation in your body, your brain doesn't work as good. So my whole life, the last 20 years has been dedicated towards understanding how physically we can create like this vibrancy, this way that our body just takes care of us. So start with how you want to feel, then do some goals that are going to help get you there. And then the next aspect that you must have. And this is where I tell people, if I'm going to start with anyone, I'm going to start with them on hitting control alt delete on the mindset that you accidentally picked up. Your outlook is your superpower. How you feel about what's going on around you. You know, there's always two kinds of people: the people that look at everything as an opportunity, and the people that look at everything as something to blame. You get to choose. You get to choose. Why not choose? Why not hit control alt delete on the way that you look at life and say, everything I've gone through, I have learned something and I'm grateful and I'm going to move forward. I believe in infinite possibilities. I'm going to magnetize myself to massive success in my life. And I'm going to just keep being at that level. Because what we know, and this is whether you believe it's a God thing and manifestation or quantum physics and energy attracts energy, what I know to be true is when I am like feeling it, like, oh my gosh, like I just bring in everything that I need, everything. And it's just this miraculous like flow of goodness that comes into my life. When I don't feel that way, like I get that. And so when you want to make a shift, again, you've got to start with that vision for how you want to feel. Start taking some action towards it and then build a mindset that's going to allow you to focus on what's good and not what's not. Like, and really do that. The second two things, I'm not going to get into the other big pieces, but the other one is you got to create habits and disciplines that you do every single day. And then you need to be really thoughtful about your energy. You know, my favorite mentor, Brendan Bouchard, in this space talks about look at yourself like a power plant. A power plant doesn't start with any energy. So when you wake up in the morning, it's how do I generate it? Like this call tomorrow, I'm going to have so much energy. It's the end of the day. I'm going to have energy because I love doing this. I can't do this all day, but I can sprinkle it into my schedule so that I'm in one meeting that maybe it doesn't bring me as much energy is offset by something else that I'm doing. So I'm really thoughtful about energy in, energy out. I coach people on doing an abundance audit of really taking a look at people, your schedule, the things you spend money on. Are they positive, negative, neutral? And start to really create more abundance in your life.
I'm fired up now. Who you know, I it's funny too because that I adopted that same mindset at one point. I said I can't be. There was a time where, and I'll never do this again. But I was doing probably 2 or 3 interviews a day, multiple times
Ooh,
a week, and I was
yeah,
just, after working 8 to 5 in the office. So it was just like there was, but I was also telling myself that, and the reason why I did that was because I felt like I needed to, as much as I was giving myself to my job, my full time, I told myself something that makes me happy, something I love to do. I feel like I need to be given some more of that. But I also needed to realize that I'm a human being, and like I was just exerting too much, as you
yeah,
said, what I'm putting out versus what's coming in. But now there's really not a time. I could be having a bad day. I could just not really be feeling it, not be in the worst mood, hungry, tired. When I hit that go live button on this
yeah.
podcast, though, it's just like
You're on.
different. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get
Yeah,
to it. So I love that you spoke to that because that's so important. The minute that I really just started to be cognizant of that, how things shifted for me and how things changed. But
yeah,
man, I know what. Well, I guess I really don't know what I was expecting when I asked that question, but I was not expecting that. But that's amazing, because a lot of that just goes to show that you have to put in the work. You have to want to
yeah.
do that, be that change.
Absolutely.
It can't.
And a
It's not
lot of people don't, and I'm
right.
okay with that. I mean, one of the greatest abundance blocks that I coach to is judgment. I don't judge other people for how they wanna live. Just because this is a way that I live doesn't mean that I'm gonna overlay it on you. Like, I live in a no opinion world. I'm not gonna give you my opinion about how you should live, but if you ask me a question about the things that I've found most impactful, I'm certainly gonna share it. So, we have to recognize, like, nobody decides one day, like, I wanna live a mediocre, scarcity-driven life where I complain a lot and I'm unhealthy and I'm not doing things that I know are gonna actualize my full potential. Nobody decides that. Yet look at how many people live that way, right? And I love the Mel Robbins adage, like, nobody else is coming. No one's coming to rescue you. There is no one coming. You are responsible for this one lifetime that you're given. And all it takes is to raise your hand. All it takes is that, like, hey, I need to understand the way that my brain works. And most people don't. They don't realize right now, most of your listeners are controlled by their brains. That is the last organ you want control in your life. Your brain is a survival tool. It is not who you are. It has gone rogue. It is focused on negativity. It is going to just think everything is a danger to you and try to keep you away from feeling hurt because it believes it knows what the future brings because of what's happened in the past. So you've got to be able to understand a little bit about how your brain works and rewire it. That's what your mindset. That's what hitting control alt delete on this mindset, installing a new operating system, right? Most of us, and for your generation, right? You have a flip phone. You have a flip phone. You are walking around with a flip phone when all you need to do is just be like, I got to upgrade. I've got to get the most enhanced, and what I would tell you is the enhanced, like, basically, like, it's going to give you the greatest competitive advantage against all your peers is learning how your brain works and just seeing these thoughts as separate from who you are. Like, when people tell me they have imposter syndrome, I'm like, you have no such thing. You have thoughts. That's it. You have thoughts. It's not who you are. You aren't someone with a low self-worth. You've got thoughts that create some of this. And when you start to see the thoughts as separate from who you are, your life will change. And that's what I hope your audience gets from this, is that you are just powerful beyond measure.
I hope they're listening because, man, I can't wait to play this one back and go through this one. But this is, it's eye opening. It's, in a sense, I think I'll probably make this decision when I go to the actual edits and everything. But I think the name of this episode is going to be The Awakening. It was something that you said.
Ooh, I love it. I love that name.
It's something that
Yeah.
as I'm just listening now, and as I'm analyzing everything that you're
Yeah.
saying, that's truly what this can be. That's truly what this will serve as. But it's about you, and it's about, as you said, developing those habits, wanting to, waking up and really realizing, what am I going to choose today? Where am I? I like that power plant analogy because it's just like,
Mm,
that's so true. What am I doing how do I fuel myself up? What is
yeah.
getting me through? A lot of times we think that because it's the norm, because it's accepted or expected, because it's something that we've just done time and time again, that's the best for us. That's the most beneficial. But even
Yeah.
with a phone, even with a laptop, even with any, as you said, you have to upgrade. Even when you first get a phone, you're in love with it. Right now I love my 15. I feel like this is working for me,
Yeah.
unlike any other thing I've had in the world. The case is cool. It looks good. It's fast. I don't even need to charge it most nights, which I need to really keep doing. But there's going to be a point in time where it becomes very slow, because I think about the phone I had before this, the 12 Pro Max. I didn't want to give that up. I loved it. It was new. It was fast. It was great. I think about before that, I had my, what was that? What did I have before that? My 8 Plus. I didn't want to give up my home button. I was a fiend for that. But I think about my lifestyle, and I
Yeah.
think about everything that I was doing and what I was implementing and what I was going through. And you have to upgrade with life. And it's the same way with life, that you have to, there are going to be certain things that are working for you in that moment. There are going to be certain things that may have built your foundation, but are not going to keep it going and keep it built. So I love what you're speaking to, because it's also just to say that there is no, like, everyone is different. Everyone is wired differently. Everyone thinks differently,
All of us.
experiences differently, but it's about how you take control of that. We don't have to, as you spoke to the brain so fluently. It was just like, wow, you were just like, the brain is always going to think about that. It knows what's best for you because what it's already gone through. Man, this is crazy. Like, it's just like, now for me, I'm even thinking some of the things that you were even saying, like some of the what's happened to us, some of our experiences, good, bad, and they've all been learning moments, or things that we didn't
Yeah.
have to necessarily go that way or do that or do this. But
Yeah.
how did you look at it? Did you look at this as a loss, as, oh, this is never, or did you look at this, hey, I just learned something new. I went through this. It was a choice that I made to get there. So I'm loving how introspective that this can be, but I also love in a sense how it has to be intentional. It has
Yeah,
to be something that you want to do, that you choose to do, and that you choose over and over and over again. Because as you said, no one just wakes up one day and says, "Hey, how can I live as mediocre as possible? How
yeah,
can I just, just forge all happiness, just forget about it, forego it, and just live by minimalist means?" Nobody, things
yeah,
like that. But if you were to ask people, are you genuinely, truly, authentically happy? That answer may surprise you, and it
yeah,
may be an alarming number of people that say otherwise. So,
yeah.
something that I also think about too is what you've already done, the foundation as we speak to that you've built to get here, the people that you've worked with, the testimonials, the things
Mhm.
that you're currently doing. But something that I'm always concerned about, and not concerned, but more so curious about, is future outlook, and more so
Yeah,
thinking about how there are going to be people listening to this episode that know nothing about you. There are going to be
yeah,
people that want to find out about GoBundance, that know
yeah,
you're that want to connect, that want to do different
yeah,
things. So I always love to give them things to look forward to, and even just different things to think about, because
yeah,
as business owners, as entrepreneurs, there's always more than what meets the eye. Where we can talk about things, we can
yeah.
put things on Front Street, but behind closed doors, there's so much more going on, and we're thinking so long term.
Oh
So
my goodness. Yeah,
for you, for everything that you're thinking about moving forward, what can even myself and down the business, because we're definitely following along the journey, what can we expect from GoBundance? Are you guys looking to get into any new spaces or any new places, debut
yeah.
anything, and any new initiatives? What can we look forward to as we continue to progress?
Yeah. So, what I would say for myself personally, you could look forward to my new book, my third book coming out, hopefully early part of next year, really on abundance. And I'm going to give some really actionable practices that you can do day in and day out that are going to elevate and attract abundance into your life. So I am so excited about that. Also going to be doing some work with Mr. John Maxwell. So that's exciting. So check that out. He's got a new financial wisdom program that I'm going to be doing some speaking with him on. So that's exciting. And then Go Abundance Women, we're just continuing to connect with ambitious female business owners that really want to elevate their life. We've got an event in Austin coming up. It might pass. It's at the end of October. And then I've got another one in Puerto Rico at the end of January. So you can always check out GoBundance at just www.gobundancewomen.com. And our events are right there on the page. And then I actually tomorrow have an amazing gift for all your listeners today. I've got a 3-part series on overcoming the top ways that business owners self sabotage. And so it's a great platform that you can just listen to after you're done listening to tomorrow's awesome podcast. Maybe pop over to www.downloadthepod.com. One of the main things that we have in Go Abundance and Go Abundance Women is you're put into what we kind of call a pod. And this becomes your board of advisors. So that's that power of proximity that we create for you with amazing people that are going to help hold you accountable and also give you a safe place to celebrate. That's a challenge a lot of, high achievers have, is like they don't have anybody to tell because they don't want to, affect their friendships or whatnot. And so definitely have a lot that I'm going to be working on here in these next few months. So,
And that's why, and time again, I unplug something. Give me 1 second. But time and time again, that is exactly why I asked that question, because we can go through this interview. We can get on here, talk 30, 40, an hour, and there still just be so many things untapped into, or untouched, or unspoken
yeah,
about, that I love. But I also know that we are gonna have people from family to, I see my cousin on YouTube Live with us saying she's loving the session and everything that's going on. But I know that we're gonna have people tapping in with us, and just making sure, wanting to kind of move along, wanting to kind
yeah,
of see, hey, Kelly came on here, she did her thing. I'm motivated. I'm tomorrow. You need to bring her back, because I get it all the time, like with stuff like that. So I'm always wanting to let people know kind of what's going on, what's happening, what we're doing,
yeah,
and just give you some insight into, look, this is what's going on behind the scenes, even to let you know too that we're always doing evaluation. We're always doing introspection.
yeah,
We're looking at things from a quarterly perspective, from a client perspective, did what worked well, what went well, and everything of the sort like that. So I'm always going to have you, I'm glad that you shared the website and everything. I'm going to have you do that again when we close out officially.
yeah.
Before we do that, do you feel like there is any last words that you want to leave out there for business owners, for entrepreneurs, for women in general, for anybody who may be coming across this interview in some
Yeah.
capacity, anything that you want to leave them with?
Absolutely. When they say it's lonely at the top, Most people relate to that. And it's isolating, right? When you're constantly working and then maybe you go home and you got to get the kids to soccer and you got to do this and you got to do that and all of a sudden years go by and you're like, "Man, I haven't really invested in myself. I haven't really taken the time to put myself at the top." And one of the decisions that I would tell everyone to make is that when you start putting yourself first, like you said, sometimes I'm pouring from an empty cup. When you make that decision, it will change your life. I can tell you for myself, I did it because I didn't want to end up like my mom. I didn't want to end up sick. I didn't want to end up with regret. I didn't want to end up with just a life where I was living for everyone else. When you put yourself first, that's your physical and emotional well-being, you have more to give. You become this place that's just overflowing and people are like, "What are you doing?" And I always tell people, like, for me, it's like, I put God first, but it's one of those things that, like, it just pours out of you and everyone wants to be a part of what it is that you're doing instead of having to ask for business or do other things. And so just really make that decision to start putting yourself first. And it might only be 15 minutes a day before your kids wake up, or 30 minutes of exercise, or getting a little bit more sleep, or doing something different, but just put yourself first. Your business will benefit, the world will be a better place, like everyone will be happier if you do it.
Because it's not selfish. It's needed.
No,
Nobody
it's
is going to take
needed.
it. Nobody's
And
going
whatever it
to.
is, you want to call it selfish. Like it at the end of the day, like we are nothing to anyone
Right.
if we are not filled with joy and gratitude.
Yeah. A term that I came across in a few episodes back, I got to shout out my guy Fred Talisman for this, was positive selfishness. When he dropped that on me, I said, "Oh,
Mm,
I love
love
that.
it.
I love
Love
you.
it.
I love the idea of that because
Yeah.
you have those certain words that just have negative connotations, but we need that. And I
Yeah.
definitely do agree with you in some capacity. You can't be your best self. You can't be truly who you are authentically made to be if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not growing, if your roots aren't,
Yes.
watered and taken care of. So, man, I love that so much. So now the call to action, you've done a few call to actions on here. I think you've even called me out in some ways that I definitely needed for sure to hear. But the best part now is, and honestly, not the best because we have to end it, but the best because it puts the ball in the people's court now and really goes to
Yeah.
who's willing to do the work, who wants to meet you where they are and everything. As far as the best places to reach you, to contact you, to get again, thank you for even offering that gift to my listeners, just the
Yeah.
same, and I'm praying that they take advantage of it. But when it comes to all things Kelly, just trying to keep up
Yeah.
with, follow the journey, go abundance, everything that you're doing, what are the
Yeah.
best places on a website, social media, everything that you got?
Yeah, absolutely. So in addition to that www.downloadthepod.com, where you will get that 3-part series, you can also check out kellyresendez.com. I've got tools there, other things. It'll kind of connect you to my other platforms that are out there as well. Go Abundance being one. And I have another platform called Big Voices, where I share a lot of wisdom with women on increasing joy and reducing self-suffering. So I would just leave them with, make that decision to put yourself first, like, take radical responsibility for your future. I don't care what happened in the past. Like, leave the shame behind. I believe wholeheartedly that worthiness is our birthright, period. You don't need to prove anything. It's not about achievement. Like, you're worthy. Let's go after whatever dreams you have. For one person, it might be the best stay-at-home mom, another be a nonprofit leader, for another go grow $1 billion company. Whatever it might be, whatever's on your heart's call, all of us have a different, I would say just calling in our life. But you got to be present enough to hear it. So take some time, to put yourself first and do the work.
Whew, Angel and Jamie did it again, man. They sent us an amazing one, y'all. But no, Kelly, really truly just thank you, one, for just wanting to be on the platform, for continuing the down to business vision and everything that we're doing.
Yes.
Just thank you for all of the work that you're doing, both, internally, externally, both what people can see and both what people are not even really realizing is happening, because the impact is, it goes beyond what we've talked about today, what an accolade
Yeah.
can and it's lifelong and it's very impactful just the same. So I thank you for all the work that you're doing, and I'm wishing you nothing but continued success and blessings as we
Thank
continue to
you.
do this thing and continue to move. I highly doubt this will be our last time in touch and in contact in some capacity. And I'm definitely having to get out to Cali, and I would love to see all of this in action and in workmanship
Awesome.
for sure.
You've
So,
been a great
yeah.
host.
Oh, I
Thank
appreciate
you
that.
so much. Made it easy for me.
Thank you. Thank you. And to all my audience members, to everybody who interacted with us today, whether you hopped in on LinkedIn Live, I'm seeing my Facebook crowd popping in, even my YouTube crowd, we're here. Thank you guys for everything that you do.
Awesome.
I love y'all. This has been another episode of the Down to Business podcast here with Tamar Turner.